Okay, everybody. I do have to have notes. I'm not as eloquent as Francois over there, but I'll say, wow, I certainly did not expect this. And I'm very humbled to be here this evening and hope to have the opportunity to spend meaningful time with many of y'all and hear your all's own journeys. I was told I have a few minutes to share a very brief recap of my journey, so let's get going. Mine began at a very young age when I was as competitive as any kid, and yet I was unathletic and overweight. I couldn't compete where my buddies were competing, so I chose academics and business as my playing field. I still don't have a handicap in golf, and as Rhonda said, I remain tighter than a tick. For me, it's never been about the money. Academically, I was and still am the introverted engineer, yes, and I did actually ask Rhonda, or tell her. She had a nice smile when she said she loved me. That's very true. But anyway, I'm a triple major magna cum laude from Vanderbilt, and also was an Express Wharton MBA graduate with distinguished list honors. Professionally, my entrepreneurial endeavors are lengthy, starting with having the only neighborhood Kool-Aid stand back in grade school when I was selling candy bars for 10 cents that I had bought for 5. I got my real estate license when I was age 18. I was earning commissions, selling houses, and even bought my first rental house that year. Probably like most of y'all entrepreneurs out there, a number of major life happenings ultimately drove my professional journey. One was actually just sitting around with my buddies at Wharton drinking beer. I can still remember going in thinking, if I made a couple $1 million over my career, I'd be a really happy guy. However, listening to my friends, I was just amazed to hear their dreams, many of them looking to make $100 million or more. And I found myself thinking, you know what, I'm just as smart as they are, and if they can do it, I can too. The most impactful happening of my life that actually drove a lot of what I've done professionally was my father's death at age 55, after I'd seen him literally work sun up to sundown throughout my life, 7 days a week as a top residential real estate agent in Louisville, where my family, and I don't know if anybody's in that business, but my family would literally have to take the phone off the hook every night for 20 minutes, just eat dinner, only to have it start ringing again the moment we put it back on the hook until it was time to go to bed. Liberty Bank, I think now Chase, orchestrated my dad taking control of the Paul Simon & Company, which was the largest brokerage firm at the time, when the company and its officers were ready to file bankruptcy back during a bad recession of the 70s. Dad ended up paying himself $1 a year for 5 years, repaying Liberty Bank in full, while continuing to sell houses to put food on the table and pay for my graduate and undergraduate educations. 6 months after finally being able to put himself on the payroll and after having paid off Liberty, he was diagnosed with terminal colon cancer and died 5 years later. And I'm, standing here, it's just hard to tell you all really what that did for me. With a grandfather who had died at 61, I felt my cards had been dealt, that I would be dead at 55. So I set out to retire at 40. So to enjoy life, because, hey, at 25, that's what life's all about, right? What did I know? Coming out of Wharton, I took the lowest paying job. I was working as assistant to my father because I wanted to be with him for his last 18 months. My most special time with him that to this day, I would not trade for anything. As we fished 3 or 4 nights a week at Nelson Miller's Roundhouse Farm. I wasn't getting rich, but I was making enough money to pay my bills and start pursuing my entrepreneurial dreams. I won't bore you with the details, but I started developing commercial real estate and was involved as the second largest shareholder in 2 meaningful leverage buyouts. I was also involved in 6 startups, 4 successes, including On Target Media. We were recognized by Inc. magazine as the 23rd fastest growing company in the United States back in 1993. And also 2 failures, which I really have no problems talking about because, as a few people have mentioned earlier, you really learn a whole lot more when you fail than when you succeed. Looking back, I was living my father's life, working 7 days a week, putting customers first, running multiple businesses, again to retire by age 40. That triggered arguably the second most impactful moment in my life when I found myself single, but with 2 wonderful children, Breck and Lindsay, sitting over here. I'd been living my father's life. I was putting work and customers ahead of everything, unknowingly even my family. Yes, I did make it through the ordeal, but that was it. And nothing was going to come before me and my family again. And frankly, I didn't care what would happen to me professionally. Funny thing, I can distinctly remember shortly after when an important client wanted me to fly to Philly for a meeting, and I said no. That my daughter Lindsay, the pretty redhead sitting over here, remember I told you I was going to mention your name, she had a big field hockey game and I couldn't miss it. You know, I was still making my way through things and thinking my client would fire me, and funny thing, he actually respected me more. Wow, what a learning that you can actually keep your family first and still be successful. Y'all think about that, entrepreneurs out there. Ultimately, 6 months before turning 40, I'd made enough money where I wasn't the richest guy in the world, but I could retire and enjoy life, so I tried retirement. Funny, 2 weeks into it, I found myself thinking, what the hell have I just done? I still had 2 young kids. My youngest son, Cutter, sitting over here, still hadn't been born. All my friends were working, and I had and still have a wonderful new wife who I've now been married to, as Rhonda said, for 25 years. I certainly couldn't go sit on a beach. That's when I came to realize that life wasn't about doing nothing. Rather, it's about doing what you love doing. I heard this from a few people, and it's so true. Life is all about doing what you love doing with people you love being around, and hopefully doing some good in the world. I really do believe that. That ultimately led me to start US World Meds with a vision to be a sustainable, privately held specialty pharmaceutical company. That vision remains today. I won't go into all the details, but I'll say I knew absolutely, I'll hold this up, if y'all can see this, I knew absolutely nothing about the pharmaceutical business. And I thought I'd be making millions in a couple of years. In the pharma friends, well, you know what that's like in the pharma business. What did I know? Roll the clock forward 23 years. I raised millions of dollars from friends and family here in Kentucky, so failure was not an option. Also invested a ton of my own money in the business, on top of going the first 7 years without a paycheck. People talk about struggling and mortgaging houses. That's what it's like being an entrepreneur. US World Meds didn't make a profit for the first 11 years, and when it did, I levered up the business thinking I could meaningfully accelerate the growth, only to run into the wall with multiple developmental delays, finding our company over $200 million in debt and teetering on a Chapter 11 bankruptcy ourselves. That was 6.5 years ago when I took my salary back to zero. Nobody made me, I did it myself, and told myself I had to fix things. Fixing things ultimately led to selling our main profit-generating division for over $300 million, which got us debt-free, but essentially left us having to start over again with a couple of pipeline products. I'm proud to say here, as I'm standing here, we finally achieved late last year what I set out to achieve 23 years ago. US World Meds is now profitable, debt-free, sitting on a nice amount of cash, with a great team, and still multiple protected products, and still privately held here in Kentucky with our Jones family in control. And I'll tell you right now, that last one was the toughest one to accomplish for you entrepreneurs out there. And yes, I did put myself, which my wife is very happy to know, I did finally put myself back on the payroll this past January. So life is a little better at the Jones household these days. Today, my dream going forward is that US World Meds be another meaningful, multi-generational, family-controlled corporate citizen of Kentucky. One last thing I haven't even mentioned is the joy I've experienced bringing new drugs to market that are making a difference in people's lives, including our latest drug, iwilfin, that is literally saving the lives of 50% of young children who were previously dying from neuroblastoma, a very deadly pediatric cancer. If anyone's interested, and if you are, just let me know. I have a very compelling letter written by a young boy named Will Lacey to the FDA that I believe helped achieve our approval. I will forewarn you, it is a tearjerker, and I have yet to be able to read it aloud in its entirety without tearing up, and that's a biggie from this introverted engineer. One other thing I want to share is I've used a lot of I's this evening, but everyone who is an entrepreneur knows it takes a team to be successful. Most of my team, my family, my key business associates, my two largest investors that really helped get this thing off the ground, they're all here, and I want to thank them all because, frankly, I wouldn't be standing here without them. Thank you all very much.